Hello everybody, this is Oliver G from the Eiffel Tower here, and today we're going to the town of Versailles. Now when I say Versailles, I think a lot of people think about the palace, they think about the grounds of the palace, they think about the movies they've seen, but the thing is, there's an awful lot more to Versailles than just that. In fact, it's a very beautiful and intriguing town, and today's guest, Bertrand from My Private Paris, he insists that if you're going to go, you need to spend half a day in the town itself. So that's what we did. I went out there with him. We spent a whole bunch of time in the town. Specifically, we walked around. We saw the antique dealers. We saw the food market, the famous old food market. We saw the church and the cathedral, and we saw a few pastry shops. And we even had lunch at the new Café Pierre Hermé. And then on the way back to the train station, we saw the famous Jeu de Paume, sort of old school tennis court full of history there. That's the brief version, but what you're going to hear now is him explaining it all, explaining why you should visit it all on site. So the day that we went there was a little bit rainy, so the only thing we didn't do that we would have done otherwise is a bike ride through the grounds. As for Bertrand and My Private Paris, if you're thinking to book a trip out to that part of the world, do it with them. I'm teaming up with them for this whole season. They offer exceptional tours, very highly rated, and they can essentially do anything. Anything. I know this because I've had a few people getting in touch wanting to book tours saying, do you think they'll do this? I say, there is no do you think. You ask them and they'll make it happen. It feels like they've got the keys, not just to Paris, but to places like Versailles as well. So keep that in mind. There will be a link in the show notes if you want to book a similar trip. Otherwise, myprivateparis.com. Now, I think it's time to leave Paris and explore the wonderful Versailles. Hello everybody, this is the Eiffel Tower podcast. My name is Oliver G and I'm standing here with Bertrand. How are you?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm pretty excited and disappointed.
Disappointed already?
You said you would be dressing up as a musketeer today. You look very much like a typical Parisian man.
Yes, that's true. I don't have the moustache, I don't have the feathers. I'm a total disappointment.
You don't have the hat? Tell me though, before we walk into this market, as we walk into this market, I want you to tell me, Versailles, in the podcast recently you said it's more than just a palace.
Yes, exactly. I told you that because I know you're not going out of the city so often. And also...
Well, me personally.
Yeah, you personally. That's the point of these trips. And also that with the experience I have, every time I go to Versailles, people wish they had stayed here for a little bit longer.
Right.
And so I want people to know what there is to see beside the palace, which is not nothing, of course, but the city itself, I find it fascinating.
Tell me why.
First, the architecture, the history of it. It's a capital city. It's designed as this. It means before the palace is built in the 1600s, there's no Versailles. Okay?
Right. What do you mean it's a capital city? What does that mean?
It means that for about 100 years, the capital city is moved from Paris to Versailles.
Okay.
The king lives in the chateau, the court live in the palace, and the population of a small hamlet that existed before the palace will grow to 50,000 people at the eve of the French Revolution. Today, it's 100,000 people who live in Versailles.
Right. And the idea being that when you come out here, you spend a bunch of time getting out here. What is it? Most people come here, they spend the time getting out here, they walk around the palace.
Yes,
and then go back.
Basically, there are two ways to get to Versailles. Either you take a drive, and so it's from wherever you are to the gates of the palace. And just before you get to the palace, you start to see the city. And usually people, open their eyes and think it's a very beautiful town. The second option is you take one of the trains and you walk for 15 minutes in a rush to be into the palace, and then you come back on the way back from the palace a bit tired, and you see all that you miss.
Right.
So that's why I think it's great for people to build up some time and they see what we're doing right now.
Okay, and speaking of what we're doing right now, I don't know, I'm sure people can hear in the background the the chatter of the market vendors. We're in the covered markets, which I assume this is the first destination we're at today.
Well,
You said as we walked in that there's four covered markets in a kind of square formation, hence why they're called the carré,
exactly.
which means square.
Carré is the square. So at the four corner of the square, you have these four buildings that used to be specialized, one for fish, one for meat, one for flowers, and one for herbs, vegetables, and on. Today it's more diverse. You have caterers and sellers. And besides the built market, you also have the market on the square. So that's open every day but Monday. And on the square, every other day it's a food market, every other day it's more clothes.
It feels to me visiting Versailles on a Monday is the stupidest thing you could ever do.
Yes, unless you want, silence. But yes, the palace is closed, the market is closed, most stores are
I
closed.
wonder if many people do come out here hoping to do it all on a Monday, finding it's all closed. It must happen.
Well, I guess it must, because I've never been to Versailles on a Monday.
Yeah.
But I've been to the Louvre on a Tuesday when it's closed, just to take some photos and see the building. And every Tuesday I see a bunch of people trying to get in, but it's closed.
Disappointed people.
So I don't see why it wouldn't be the case in Versailles.
And a
too.
lot of museums in Paris close on Mondays too, I've noticed.
Yeah, and traditionally in France, Mondays is a day off for shops because they are open on the weekend.
Makes sense. As for these markets, we've done the full tour now. I'm intrigued by the feeling that it's very local. They're selling things that visitors aren't buying. I don't think people coming on a day trip from Paris are buying pheasants with feathers on.
No, but locals do, and we see them doing it. It's true. Well, we're on a Tuesday morning, and so the people shopping in Versailles are locals. But you can buy cheese, you can buy ham, you can buy fresh fruits and vegetables. We do that. I do that quite a lot. We buy some food here to do a picnic in the grounds of the palace later on.
May I ask a silly question?
You always...
I specialize in... How old is the market here that we're walking through?
Let me calculate. 1660. We are 360 years old.
Okay, and the reason it's silly is because is everything that old? Because they built it all suddenly after the palace, or is it?
Yes, it's built right after the palace. The whole town
Yeah.
is designed once the palace start to grow,
Right.
and it's divided into these two districts. I'll show you today.
Saint-Louis,
Saint-Louis, very good.
Notre-Dame.
And Notre-Dame. You're a good listener.
I don't know.
And the city is not so old for European standard, so that's why it stays.
I think in Paris when you walk around it can be, a lot is Haussmannian, so you can date it pretty accurately, but then there's things going back to 1,000 years old or older. Here it feels easier to date the buildings as you walk around.
Yes.
Yeah.
First of all, because the city is only 400 years old.
Yeah.
And in here, the closer you are to the palace, the older the buildings get, and then the city just expanded wider and wider.
That's fun. It reminds me of Deauville in that everything's really easy to date because it's a new city.
And newer in Deauville. But
Way
yes,
newer, yeah. Look at all these connections we're drawing. Okay, on towards these colourful vegetables and fruit, and then on towards the rest of the town. Excuse me, yes. Anything I need to know? What are we going to do today? Can you give me the quick gist?
Sure. So I'd like to show you some cool antique stores. Bonjour. I want to show you also that the estate of Versailles, the palace itself, is not just the palace, but it has huge grounds where we can be on a bicycle or even on horseback.
Like the Sound of Music?
Like the Sound of Music. I want to show you a bit of the architecture of Versailles. It has a beautiful cathedral and a Notre Dame church. What else did I have in mind?
Pastry.
And I want to show you that Versailles is a top gastronomy destination, the market, but also amazing pastries.
All this in one day?
All this in one day, yeah.
Well, let's do it. And Bertrand, now we're sitting for the second time in recent weeks, you and I sitting in a church.
I don't have an agenda behind this.
What's your confession? This is what's the name of this one?
This one is Église Notre-Dame,
Okay.
Church of Notre-Dame.
On a side note, are you excited about Notre Dame in Paris?
I can't sleep because I'm too excited about it.
Are you serious?
I am serious. Yes.
Have you got any plans to get in there before it opens? Are you gonna be there in the queue when it opens?
Well, either you take me in, or I have to become a priest before that happens, which is in 2 weeks.
I thought I had connections to get in there, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure I can promise you anything. You have to be my cameraman or something.
If you can perform the miracle, I'll do the cameraman, the perchman, the whatever you need.
Okay, we'll see what I can do. But as for this place, you mentioned 1686, which is the same time as the palace was built. Do we say palace or castle? What do you say in English?
Palace.
Okay.
In English, you'd say palace. In French, palais. It's a privilege word. So it's a castle, a chateau that is owned by a member of the royal family.
Okay. And this place built at the same time, super stunning, newly renovated, and for the second time in quick succession, I'm realizing there's a lot more to see in this town than just the palace. But it's empty in here, so I assume this isn't on the typical route of anybody, really.
No, it's like most of the town, but I think people can be intimidated entering into churches if it's not one big landmark, like Notre Dame was and will be again. But yes, I always advise just walk in, because there's been so much work and that was dedicated to this building. This one was built by the very architect who built the Hall of Mirrors while he was building the Hall of Mirrors.
Unfathomable, really. I mean,
it's that great.
Yeah.
It's not just a church, let's stop and to sing. It's the king's architect. He's building the Hall of Mirrors, he's finishing the palace, and he's also designing this church.
Is this Mansart?
Mansart, exactly.
But it reminds me, I don't know, I'm not very good at architecture, but it reminds me, his work, a bit of, I used to live in the 7th arrondissement, it reminds me of the Invalides.
Very good, very
Is it
good.
the same guy?
Yeah.
Okay, you did tell me that before you pressed record. But hang on, this guy, this is the same guy that did the roofs, the Mansart rooftop, or is that a different?
He designed the Place Vendôme.
This guy, okay. Okay.
And in the Place Vendôme, you have all this building with this side, like inclined roof with an extra floor within, which we call the Mansart roof.
Which is all over Paris, or?
Now it's all over Paris, yes. It's this extra floor in the attics.
Okay, this is the most underrated design architect guy in the history of France, I think. Because if you ask people typically for, famous people who've designed things, I don't think many people would mention Mansart. Or?
If you ask to guides, they will say...
No, not the
Mansart
guides.
for
I
sure.
mean, like, this guy isn't a household name, it feels.
No, it's true. Maybe it's because it started to be a little bit old, and he's designed mostly churches and places of power. Could that be a reason?
Maybe, I don't know. I'm just surprised. Like, I think it should be a name that everybody knows, but it sounds fantastic. In terms of going into the churches, we're sitting here recording, talking. For typical tourists walking to churches around France, are there rules to respect? Hats off?
Hats off is the number one rule. Then to speak at a quite low level.
Like the builders behind you?
Like the builders behind us, yes. They're not visiting, they're working.
Yeah,
so
fair enough. So
exempted. Yes, that's true. Do you want to start singing? The Mansart was very famous for designing churches with an amazing acoustic. See how everything is vaulted and round, so the sound goes around very, very well. So you can be loud and check it.
Okay, we'll do that at the end before we go out. In terms of the churches and cathedrals, there's another one on the other side of town as well?
Yes, exactly. Built at the same time, also designed by Mansart. It's called St. Louis, and it was made the Cathedral of Versailles. That means Versailles is its own diocese. We're getting a little bit into Catholic legislation here. So church is for a parish, and a cathedral is for a diocese. That means it has authority over a regular church. So St. Louis is in Versailles. St. Louis is the cathedral, Notre Dame is the church. In Paris, Notre Dame is the cathedral, and we do have a St. Louis church.
There you go. Okay, and then on a side note, to come here from the food market where we were recording before, we had a stop off at a bakery. I hadn't considered Versailles to be foodie.
Very much so.
It is, though?
Yes, very, very foodie.
How so?
Well, so first, the food market is the best food market in the Paris region in terms of quality, variety.
Including Paris, the city?
Yes.
Really?
To me, yes, for sure. Remember, we are in a city that is quite wealthy, quite traditional also, where, meals, dinners, and Sunday lunches, etc., are still a very strong institution. So I think if you want to dive into the traditional French food culture, in Paris, it's evolving rapidly. So you see the new trends, but if you want to see the more classical, Versailles.
That's interesting. And when you do day tours, when you take people out here for the whole day, do you go shopping at the markets, or is it because you can't cook, you're tasting cheese, or what?
We do come to the market, especially on the summertime with families, if they want to have, let's say, a picnic in the park.
Picnic, yeah, of course. Okay, yeah. And then otherwise, in terms of food, there's we just went to a salon du thé.
Yes.
Where I had a café crème, and a
diva. You took the diva.
I wanted to, and people can see what it looks like. I'll post videos on social media, YouTube and stuff. But I wanted the most decadent-looking cake.
And you picked the correct one.
Well, it wasn't until I ordered it that I realized it was called Diva, and that was a bit embarrassing. But it seems like that kind of idea of beautiful food, nice food, the city isn't a stranger to that kind of stuff either.
Yes, exactly. There are a few great places for hot chocolate or tea and even high tea. So we stopped into the most local one called Galupo. I'd like to show you the one of Pierre Hermé, that's the god of macaron. Pierre Hermé has opened one in a new hotel facing the chateau, and the ultimate experience, but it's a bit out of our budget for today, is the Alain Ducasse high tea like Marie Antoinette at the Grand Control, which is the 5-star hotel within the Palace of Versailles.
Hang on, what's the budget on it? What does it cost?
I think we're at 85 per person.
We can stretch the budget, can't we?
Thank you for taking me.
Well, let's see if we find it. Okay, let's get out of here before it starts raining.
Great, yes.
We just sat down in Pierre Hermé, and first it's very beautiful. This is part of a 5-star hotel, right? Is this somewhere you come regularly?
Well, it just opened, so Now I start to come more regularly, because personally I do about 2 tours per week to Versailles, and so I always try to stop here now. But it's open 2 months ago, something like this.
Well, it's very beautiful, I got to say. The only thing I'm not so sure about is we sat down for lunch now, and the waiter only addressed you like you were the dominant part of this relationship. He didn't even look at me. What is that?
Maybe he knows you. Maybe he was intimidated.
I thought he knew you, maybe. But it was like...
I'm trying to be nice to you, Oliver.
I take it, thank you. Okay. But I thought it might be a good chance to talk about places to eat and drink, if you don't mind doing a quick fire round, so that people have some places to look out for, or to see if their taste aligns with yours, perhaps. So we'll do it quickly. Good place to eat. Is that this one?
I'd say Burger King, McDonald's, Starbucks. Now, all of this exists in Versailles, but please don't go to that.
When you say that, please don't go to it. Why do you say that? Is it do French people feel like it's the Americanization of France, or what?
No, not at all. I mean, there are McDonald's everywhere in France, and so it means that we like it, and it's kind of adapted to our taste. But when you go to Versailles is a destination. You could go to McDonald's in Paris. I'm totally fine with that. But in Versailles, try to find an atmosphere that feels a little bit more royal. I think that would be the word. And so that's what I like with the Pierre Hermé Café. Pierre Hermé is a famous pastry chef. He's famous for the macaron. But in here, it's a restaurant. So it's a proper restaurant for lunch. You can go for tea in the afternoon or for dinner.
Okay, so this is a great restaurant stop. Where's one that's a bit more, luxury? Where do you take a date on a special night?
I would say if you're taking, it's a good question. Probably at La Table du 11, so the table of the 11th. It's located across the square from here, and the chef is called Bertrand. So
It's no reason to choose a restaurant. Although I almost bought a book that had the name Oliver in the title when we're at the new Smith & Son bookshop, which is just around the corner. So, okay.
But yeah, La Table du 11, in terms of fine dining in Versailles, that would be a great place. Probably less ceremonial than the ones in Paris, also much cheaper. So you can take a date out to Versailles to a fine dining restaurant and save money. And last, but that's really if you want to go through the roof, it's at the Alain Ducasse restaurant in the 5-star hotel called Grand Contrôle.
Hang on, it's called Ground Control?
Grand.
Oh, big, like
ground,
big.
like big, yeah. Not like the ground control you live next by.
Very different vibe. There's nothing 5 stars about ground control in the 12th arrondissement.
No, but although it's a very cool place.
I love it.
But the Grand Contrôle it's been open for about 3 years, just after COVID. And it's 17 suites, very, very high end. We're talking 3, 4, 5, 7,000 euros a night.
7,000 euros a night to stay there?
Yes. But you do have access to the palace after it's closed to the public.
Okay.
And that's priceless.
Fair enough. What about somewhere to drink? Good bar?
So when I come to Versailles at night, it's usually on the summer. On the weekends, they have fireworks in the grounds with the fountains. So the good place to go for drinks after are either around Le Carré Notre-Dame, the food market we went to. There are a few cafes that are open till 1 a.m. The other option is to go on Rue Satori. So again, in the St. Louis area, where you will find maybe a little bit more adult places with great wines and cocktails, etc.
Yeah. So less family. When you say adult, you don't mean erotic.
No. Sorry. The Carré Notre-Dame, it will be more teenager and young adults, like college kids. Yeah. But if you want to be, with our age. Yeah. Because
we found out we're the same age.
Yeah. I would go to Rue Satori.
Okay, and then switching topic quickly.
Oh, and I forgot. Actually, the neighbor to the hotel, you have a bar. It's run by 2 ladies, and they do fun karaoke nights and team nights, etc. So it's almost like you walk into an apartment, but it's a legit bar, and they do cocktails, etc.
Amazing. Also, incidentally, I'm realizing how small the town is, because we kind of did the whole one side already before lunch. The other thing I want to talk about quickly is movies. Mm-hmm. I just want 2 movie recommendations. I want the best movie, full stop, about Versailles. And then I want the most famous one that's totally overrated, that we shouldn't watch.
Personally, one of my favorites, and I know some guys will be angry at me with saying that, but it's Marie Antoinette by Sofia Coppola. I think the movie is nearly 20 years old now. I watched it before I was a guide. I think that's one of the reasons I became a guide. It's how...
The other one was the Three Musketeers. You said that 2 weeks ago.
No, the Three Musketeers is why I was so interested in history.
Oh, that's right.
But the connection with Versailles, to me, it's coming, from this movie. I think I was in love with Kirsten Dunst since Spider-Man, but that's another topic. Yes, exactly what you... That's good, we're the same age, because we can love...
We got the same cultural references. But, okay, so... okay, that's the good one to see. What's one that maybe we could skip?
Let's see.
Is it the one with Johnny Depp?
The one with Johnny Depp, yes.
I was impressed to see a Hollywood actor speaking French.
No, because you don't have the ear for it. But
yes, I do. I know how to speak French. It's still impressive. How many A-list Hollywood actors speak any French?
Well, he was married to a French singer.
That's true, actually.
For years, his kids are French and American. But there's one line he says is "Je t'aime jaune" instead of Jeanne. They say jaune, and it means I love you yellow. And I burst into laughter at the theater when I heard it.
Okay, fair enough. But the movie, I thought the movie was all right. No?
Yes. No.
No. Okay. Fair enough. Okay, there's one to see.
But it's great to see Versailles in movies. But if you want to see a period movie about Versailles, I'll pick Marie Antoinette over Jeanne du Barry a million times.
When I was at Chateau Vaux-le-Vicomte, he said that they film a lot of Versailles movie out there because it's cheaper and easier and looks kind of similar.
Yes. You talked to me about movies. There are also TV shows. So there's a 3-season Versailles TV show, which is really great. And a lot of the inside, usually in these movies, if it's outside views, they film it in Versailles on Monday when it's closed. And all the inside views, they film them in Vaux-le-Vicomte, Fontainebleau, other palaces where it's much easier to get authorization.
And here comes our lunch.
Pour moi, monsieur.
And just like that, we've come to our final stop of the day. This is the Cathedral of
Saint-Louis.
Saint-Louis. I feel like you said that this was also built by Monsard, which seems like you're right and wrong at the same time.
Thanks for pointing it out. So if I said it was built by Monsard, I was right. If I said it was built by the same Monsard, the other one, I was wrong.
A technicality. This is his grandson, right?
Yes, exactly.
You can tell he's not as experienced as his grandfather.
I prefer the church Notre Dame over the cathedral, but you see the pattern. How would you say?
Yeah.
That the style is in the family.
For sure. I mean, I think the other one felt really much lighter and more, I don't know.
Aerial? Is that a word?
How do you mean?
There's more air. This one feels like it's going to crash on you, while the other one felt like maybe it was the light.
Yeah,
but
this one feels
more
a bit
hot
heavier.
lightning.
Yeah. But it's still very beautiful and once again empty. So absolutely, have you heard of church fatigue?
No.
So if you go into too many churches, you end up getting church fatigue.
I don't think so.
No.
But I'm a guide, so it's my passion. I do though bring church fatigue to my wife and kids.
I think if you feel like you want to see one church while you're here, the Notre Dame on the other side, easy to remember, like the Notre Dame in Paris, which is where I started today, right out front of the cathedral. But in terms of the town of Versailles, I think walking around with you, not least because you're so passionate about it, but just in general seeing the town and how much there is to offer, it reminds me of the Louvre in that I know there are a lot of people who go to the Louvre just to see one particular piece of art.
Which one?
The Mona Lisa. It's true though. People go. Do you get people that contact you about just seeing Mona Lisa?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, I say no.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so much more. And it's the same here. Like, if you go to the Louvre, go and see some other things for goodness sake. Even if you only have 15 minutes there, take a look at some other things. But it's the same with Versailles. It feels like coming to Versailles just for the palace, you're missing out on a lot that's on offer, especially if you come from a smaller town and you think like Paris is a bit big and inaccessible and you know, too many people. This is like a chill Paris, kind of, don't you think?
Exactly. There are places in it that make me think of Le Marais, you know, the Marais in Paris, before it got too trendy.
When did the Marais get too trendy?
It's in the last 15 years.
Yeah.
Maybe because of you, maybe because of me. But yeah, it's changed. I mean, it's more it's packed every day. And while here in Versailles, you have nice architecture, great food stores, beautiful views, and it's chill. You're right.
It's funny because, like, I'm sure the town of Versailles wants more people to come to it. And then the risk is more people come to it, then they start opening specialty coffee shops and all this in all the quiet courtyards, and then it becomes like the Marais, and then it's ruined. I mean, well, the Marais is not ruined, but you know what I mean?
So maybe you have 15 years to come here before it gets...
There you go. Don't wait, people. No, but in all seriousness, I think the town of Versailles seems to me that it's quite overlooked by people.
Definitely, yeah. For sure.
And from your perspective, you guys do tours of just the palace and just the grounds, right?
Yes, but I always try to tell people to give a bit more time to Versailles. but they never really know what else they will be there. But for sure, all of the time when on the way back, people tell me they wish they would have stayed a bit longer.
Well, that's what you said when people walk from the palace back to the train station, and you get a real taste of the town for the first, or you see streets for the first time, like that one we just went down, Rue Sartori.
Sartori, yes.
And you're like, oh, I wish I stayed here. I get that. I can imagine that happening. So this is your chance, people. If you want to come out to Versailles, make it a full day trip. Don't do the quick version. And I think people, you're not going to like this, Bertrand, but I think people get palace fatigue when they're out there.
I know, yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But that's why Versailles is not just the palace.
Yeah.
We can be in the palace for 2 hours and then doing a foot tour in the city, doing a bike ride in the park, there's tons of things to do, and you don't get fatigue of good pastries.
No, I don't. I certainly don't. I want to finish on this note. If you, if someone gets in contact with My Private Paris and they say, I want to do a day trip in Versailles, is it scripted to what we just did together, or is it the world is your oyster vibe?
Yes, the second one. We customize all the tours, so it can be one day within the estate, so the palace and the park and the grounds, Marie Antoinette's private mansion, etc. It can also be half the day in the palace and the grounds and half the day in the city. We always customize it.
And do people generally, I'm curious, do people generally say, this is exactly what I want, let's do it? Or do people generally say, I trust you guys, give me some recommendations?
Yeah, the latter again.
Cool. That's the more fun one.
Yeah.
So there's you have only 15 years, guys, to say this as it is.
Time's ticking.
Get in contact with... How often is it you that does the tours, by the way?
Versailles more than the Louvre, I would say.
Okay, so if you specifically want to see Bertrand, I think you can ask him. Otherwise, he's got a whole team of lovely and talented guides that will show you Versailles, Paris, or pretty much anything else in the country, can we say?
Yeah? Well, where should I take you next time?
Hey, let's talk about where are we going next time?
Normandy, Loire Valley, Fontainebleau, Lille. Oh, Lille's a pretty cool one too.
Yeah. Well, let's see based on the weather. It's going to be December. We've had 2 rainy days in a row.
True. Maybe we could go to a Christmassy Christmas market vibe.
I'm in. Let's see where our brainstorming can take us. As for everybody, thanks for listening to this episode of the Eiffel Tower, recorded on location in Versailles. And you've been hearing the voice of me, Oliver G, and Bertrand Dallemin from My Private Paris. Find them in the link below. Follow them on social media. I am partnering up with them for this whole season, a day trip every month, and I'm excited to see where it takes us. Bertrand, merci beaucoup.
Merci à toi.